Okay, we're recording now. So let me share my screen and present. Okay, so I think you're all seeing that. Welcome to Tools for Data Management Planning. My name is Kayla Robinson. I am one of the health sciences librarians here at the Medical Center Library. And today I'm just going to give a high-level overview of some of the tools that the librarians and researchers use for data management planning. If you have any questions, like I said, please drop it in the chat. So today we're going to cover a few different tools, and I'm simultaneously going to give live demonstrations. So we're going to talk about the DMP tool, which is where to find protocol templates and also where you can write plans and protocols. The second is Open Science Framework, so discover where to share and host project data. And then finally, not very much time will be spent on this, but I will briefly go over EndNote and what it is and how you can use it to manage data. Like I said, everything will have a small, short demonstration live, and we will be doing this for about the next 30 minutes, and I will have about 10 minutes for questions. So if you want to hold your questions till then, that's totally fine as well. Okay, first things first, what is DMPTool? DMPTool is a data management software. It provides researchers with places to write plans, templates, and even to create templates. So for the new NIH data management policy, there is actually a current data template, which is the old policy, and then the forthcoming data template. So we will see if they've updated that yet. It's been about a week since the policy has been out, so it might still be like this, it might not. But there's also the genomic data sharing template as well. And finally, not necessarily NIH DMSP related, but the librarians here at the University of Kentucky have made a evidence synthesis systematic review protocol template, which I can show you live as well. See, oops, I'm not clicked on this anymore. Okay, so here is just the NIH DMPTool screenshot. So like I said, we'll show you this live to check to see if it's been updated or not. But to create any new plan, you'll go up, create plan, put in your research project information, your affiliation, if you have funding or not. So like I said, if this is an NIH grant, you will put NIH and then select either the forthcoming or maybe current template. So for the NIH data management and sharing plan template, there are these 6 sections, which are data type related tools, software and or code, standards, data preservation, access, and oversight. So we have a few other sessions that we've recorded recently that actually cover this more in depth, but just know that if it's in the NIH DMSP template, it will be on DMPTool. And I think that might be it for DMPTool. I don't have many slides today because a lot of this is going to be live, but you can just go to dmptool.org. You're affiliated with UK. You will have to create oh, that is not my email. You will have to create an account. And just be sure that whichever account you sign in with initially, so whether it's your Link Blue email or your longer email, mine is kayla.robinson, that is the one you're going to have to sign in with forever. So unfortunately, I chose my Link Blue email, and now people type out my full email and it doesn't work when they try to send me plans. So just be careful when you're signing up. But naturally it let me in. I signed in with my Link Blue information, and I was already in earlier today. So that's why you didn't see the University of Kentucky interface. So let's walk through once again how to create an NIH plan. So we'll go up, create plan. What research are you planning? We don't really have anything like that right now, but let's find the NIH. So you can type in NIH, or you can type National.
I'm listening how to create this new NIH template.
Just send me an email.
I will. You here today?
Okay, So we have our NIH piece here. I'm just going to tick test. It won't let you create the plan unless you have a research project. You can also hit mock project if this is just for testing. And then that was interesting, actually. That's new. So typically, there should be an option here. That's new. I don't think this is working the way it should be working currently. Warren, do you know anything about this? Why is it doing that?
It started doing that last week, and I'm wondering if you hit create, if it just automatically goes to the NIH one at this point.
I think it might. So maybe
because there's no more. There's just one NIH plan now.
Yeah, there's no more.
And the genomic one might be listed separately, but I think there used to be forthcoming and present. And I think that's the reason it's now. Yeah. So this one is the new one. It has the 6 new areas that you have to answer in the 2-page format.
Okay, cool. Yes, I'm seeing that now. So they must have gotten rid of all of the other ones. So we'll have to update our PowerPoint. But here it is. Each section of the NIH DMSP has its own writing portions, and it comes with guidance. You can actually make comments. So if you're doing this collaboratively with a team, you can make comments and it will be shared between your team members. But I think the best part about this is that it does come with this guidance and even a fill in the blank prompt, which I think is really exciting. And there's even a little guidance for the genomic data sharing policy. So maybe they're the same now. Maybe they combined the policy for the generic NIH and the genomic data sharing plans. But each piece will have a number of which you need to fill out. So data type has 3 pieces of information, and each one comes with fill in the blank prompts, which is really exciting. Like I said, we're not going to go into this today. We go into it in a few other of our presentations. But if you have any questions about this, please let us know. UK did not create this plan, so this does come directly from the NIH. They've partnered with the DMPTool. So there may be some things that we're not entirely sure why they're there, but just ask and we will figure it out. Another cool thing is that when you're fully complete with your plan, you can actually publish through the DMPTool. So you can register it with a DMP ID, which will give it a DOI, which is a unique identifier. However, you have to meet all of these criteria. So you have to have at least 50 questions answered. You have to connect it through your ORCID ID, which I can show you all how to set that up in a minute. And then it can't be a mock test project. So all of these things have to be checked before you register. And then you can actually make this public, private, only visible to your organization and that kind of thing. But
I would also throw out, Kayla, with the registration, like make sure you are as complete as possible. I know it only says like 50% or something like that. Make sure it's as complete as possible, because once that unique identifier has been placed on it, it is like registered, and you then will begin having versioning of it. That is a new part to DMPTool, is versioning. So you know, if you're working on a multi-year project, you want to be able to change that data management plan with how the project adapts. And it's just important to know that this does have versioning, and you don't want it to be 50% done and you have all these versions because you didn't have it complete. So I really recommend waiting until you know you're ready to like submit your grant and get this registered. It's automatic. So you don't have to do it so many days in advance. So that just be my one note about the ID.
And it does cost money. So make sure that you're not just registering things kind of all over the place. Like Lauren said, make sure it's as done as possible, completely done.
Yeah, it doesn't cost you money. It doesn't cost like the patrons money. Any DOI that you have, whether it's for a journal article or for a registry like this, it does cost money to get those unique identifiers. So even the organizations that we purchase these products through ask that we wait until it's complete, just because, you know, once it's permanent, it's permanent. And if you're never going to use that plan, there's no point in having a unique identifier that is permanent. And you can also link these, which is another cool thing. I talk about this some in our other pre-recorded presentation, but you can like link this and have like linked data where your DMP tool or your DMP is then uniquely identified to your grant proposal and then into your final article, you can like link all that together, which really helps with transparency and reproducibility.
Really nice. Really, really nice. Yes. So like we said, just make sure you're done. You don't want 7 versions of a protocol, but this is just for your data management plan, right? So let's say you're working on something like a systematic review and you're publishing a protocol or registering a protocol. What you can actually do is download each individual piece of your DMP plan and select some download settings. So I typically will download as a Word document in case I need to do some last minute edits before I upload to Open Science Framework, which we're going to talk about now. Very exciting. Does anyone have any questions about DMPTool before we move on while I have it up still? No, cool. Okay, well, like I said, put it in the chat. You can wait till the end, whatever you want. But let's go back and talk about Open Science Framework. So Open Science Framework it's hard to describe in like one sentence because it does so much. They describe it's self-described as a project management tool, which doesn't really mean anything because you can do so much with it. So you can use it to host, share, and store data. So it will only maintain your data for like 50 years-ish, I believe, which seems like a lot of time. But when you have this new data management and sharing policy from the NIH, you have to discuss how your data is being stored and managed. So you can't necessarily just leave it in OSF for 50 years and call it good. You do need to make sure that the data is being taken care of and has good data stewardship. So we're taking care of our data. It does, like I said, does not clean or upkeep your data. It just stores it. So keep that in mind when you're using OSF. And also, it's not just for data management plans. Like I said, you can register protocols for evidence syntheses in here. You can upload, of course, your data management and sharing plans here as well. You don't necessarily need to use the DMP ID piece and DMPTool, or just storing any other project documentation. So I will show you all of that in a second.
Yeah, I would throw in it's really good for procedural data. So like your metadata. Yeah. So with the new NIH policy, they're not really wanting people to like submit a bunch of like extra stuff into the data repositories. So we've actually brought OSF up as an option with some patrons because you can put all your procedural data and get a unique identifier from OSF and then link that to your repository where your actual data lives. So that's what like Kayla was talking about. It's really, I would say it's really good for like protocols, and they actually just released a new metadata schema. Neat. So, but yeah, anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yes, thanks, Lauren. Lauren is our NIH expert, so she will have great advice for any of this kind of stuff. Okay, so it's basically the same to create a project in Open Science Framework as it would be in DMPTool because it's the exact same button. However, they do not do the same thing. So I will pull that up now, but let me show this slide. So this is an example of a Open Science Framework project. So I will walk you through how to create a new project, but this is an example. So there's a few things here that I wanted to highlight. If you're going to register an evidence synthesis protocol or a data management plan in OSF, you have to create the project first and then register it in your OSF instance. Like I said, I will show you all that. The files is where you can upload PDFs. So here you can see that we have a DMPTool guidance open access that a colleague, Lauren, and I created to share with fellow librarians. And then you can also make your project public or private, depending on, what it's used for, essentially. Just a disclaimer, and Lauren, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that any of these places would be where you would upload private, like personally identifiable information. So
Yeah,
I
yeah, that's correct. You cannot use it for any like PHI, so or any health data or any patient data. It's not HIPAA compliant.
yes.
So just be aware of that. If you are using it, it can be used as a lab notebook as well. Some researchers at other institutions do use it for that. But yeah, you can't put anything that can be identifiable here. It's not compliant.
Yes, so even if it's private, it's still not HIPAA compliant, so just keep that in mind. There are other tools for personal identifiable information data storage.
And you might talk about this too, Kayla, but you can actually make the project public or private, and you can give the project a DOI and still register a registration separately. So just be aware, like it's a little bit confusing because of all the different parts. Because even in that project Kayla was just showing you, you can actually make collections inside of it that you can like granularly decide what inside of the project can be public. So we've had people who share projects with people at other institutions, and then they want to make their search strings findable. You can just make that one piece of the project findable and not the entire project. So it is a good project management system as well for that type of level of things, especially if you're wanting to make certain pieces published and certain pieces not.
Yeah. So like if you have versioning of a protocol or a plan, you may want to hide the previous versions and keep the newest version just for good data storage, versioning and things like that. But let's talk about OSF and how to just get into it, period. So I actually also do search in OSF for things. Sometimes like if I'm looking for a search strategy or to see if anyone has a protocol already published on this topic, I will search in OSF to see if that exists. But first, you need an account. So you'll hit sign up. If you have an ORCID ID, which is also something you need to register your final DMP plan, I would recommend connecting those things. So creating an ORCID ID, if you do not already have one, we have a guide here that I will quickly drop in the chat. An ORCID ID is a DOI for a researcher, essentially. So I recommend that if you do any kind of published research, any kind of public research, that you get one of these accounts, because you can use it to sign in to some of these things. And the link is in the chat now. So you can sign in with all this information. I would sign up using ORCID. However, I already have an account, so if you have any trouble making one, let us know. I'm not going to make a new account. I will just sign in my ORCID ID. Everything's already loaded.
We do not have institutional subscription for either of these products, so you will need to create your own ID and not use the single sign-on options.
Yes. Yes, we do not. So you would hit create new project. It's in the United States. So this is important for like data hosting. If you're using the wrong country, like if you're not selecting the United States, it's going to store your data differently. So just make sure that wherever you're at, you're using the right storage location. I'm going to name this test. And then you can select a project to use as a template. However, it can only be templates that you have made. So if I were to try to make a template, I would potentially use my open access DMPTool guidance as a template. You cannot like find a template that someone else has made and use that. It has to be one of your own.
You can fork them though. There are options to fork from other templates, but there is like it cites that one that you came from, but you have to do that from like searching.
Yeah, and it's not very easy to do. So if you have any questions about that, let us know. But typically making your own project works just fine. So here's the test. You can connect it to wiki pages, which I've never done, but I think it's pretty cool. This is where all your files go. If you have tags, so if you want people to be able to find your public data, well, you wouldn't post data in here, but your like public project or your registration, you can tag it with things like registration, systematic review protocol, whatever you're interested in. And then the cool thing is that it does actually create a citation for you. So this was helpful when we made our open access tool, because now people can cite the tool and give us credit for that. So you can enter your own citation style, which I think is very exciting. Up here, this is the new metadata tab. I actually have not had time to play with this yet, but if you are interested in metadata, this is definitely a cool place to look. Contributors is another important one. So if you have people working on a project with you, you can add them as contributors. So if I wanted to add Lauren, which I usually do want to add Lauren, I would find her here and add her to my project. And you can give special permissions as well. So administrator, read and write, just read, depending on who's working and doing what on the project. The important thing here, though, is the registration piece, which can also be confusing. I mean, a lot of this stuff can be confusing because it's a data hosting platform, so there's a lot you can do on here, and it's not always super straightforward. So if you're having trouble, you can contact us, or you can click the Learn More here and figure out what kind of registration you're looking for. So we have registrations, we'll hit New Registration, and this is where it starts to get confusing. So you have a bunch of different registrations with information on the right-hand side about what kind of registration that is. So typically when I'm registering a systematic review protocol, I will choose open-ended registration because that will give you like an opportunity to write a summary or even put your whole protocol in there. So I'll click that one. The rest of these are very specific. So if you find that one of these you recognize, then maybe that will be useful to you. Create my draft. And then here is what a registration looks like if it's open-ended. So you'll put your description, your contributors, your license. This is, once again, can be confusing if you don't know what kind of sharing license you need. If you have a grant, it may tell you. However, if it's like a protocol registration, we typically will do Creative Commons licensing. So it just depends on what your project is and what the parameters of like your grant or your research are. Subject is pretty self-explanatory. We'll hit health sciences, go next. You can provide a summary here and then upload a PDF here. I don't have anything to upload, so I'm not going to do that. But when you have something uploaded, it will appear in your files, which is being a little slow. This piece is new as well. So here is our PDF, our open access PDF. Let's see, last thing. So if you wanted to make your whole project public or private, you would just switch over here. So let me.
And I would throw out one, like, so you might be asking, like, what's the difference between like a project being openly available with a unique identifier and your registration? The difference is your project is always editable. Your registration is now editable, but it used not to be. And if it is editable, if you edit your registration, it's going to have versioning now. So there's always a history of it. So that's kind of the difference when you're thinking about this, which way to go with it. Is if you're registering it, then you want permanent record keeping of that document. And that's when the registration becomes really helpful. So, and then while your project is always editable, you can share it, you can make different pieces available for download or private or public. That's kind of the difference between using an OSF project versus a registration. You don't have to register something from the project. Just, I know that can be a little bit confusing. So it can be used in either way.
Yes, she's completely correct. And you don't have to make it public either, especially if you're just like, if you add all of your team members as contributors, if the people who need to see it can see it, it's fine to leave it private. Okay, Gusit, if you have any questions about OSF, let us know. But we're going to move on to EndNote for our last 5-10 minutes.
Really quick, if you don't mind.
Oh, yes, please.
The metadata piece is brand new. It just launched like this week or late last week. And if you are doing this and you're wanting to make it searchable, I highly recommend using this metadata schema. It's going to make things much more retrievable and findable. This is kind of part of the whole initiative of these big players in data like OSF and Dryad and other groups to have standardized metadata so things are searchable and findable. So if you are doing this and you are going to register your projects or whatever you're going to do with it, and you have a question about how to fill out this metadata, please come to one of us at the Med Center. It's brand new. We can help you with it. But just be as aware that this is a really helpful tool for you to make sure that your research is findable.
Mm-hmm. You can register a million things, but if no one can find it, is it really there? I don't know. We're getting too meta now with the metadata, but the metadata tool is brand new. So if you have any questions, let us know. We will figure it out together. Okay, I'll leave all of this up. Let's go back and I will just have one final slide on EndNote. We talk about EndNote a lot here at the libraries because we are the experts in the software. So EndNote is citation management software. So we have a project management tool, we have a citation management tool, and then we have a template writing data management tool. So lots of different types of tools that all do different things. So really quick, we have a ton of videos on how to download and set up and use EndNote. So I'm not going to go into that. We have a ton of really good videos that we definitely recommend watching. I have the link here in the PowerPoint. But what EndNote does is it helps you host, edit, and cite articles. So if you're doing any kind of research where you need to do a literature review or the literature review is the research, highly recommend hosting your articles in EndNote. And that way you will have a record of what you've looked at and we'll be able to write that down essentially. I don't have any slides on this, so we'll just open it up. This is my test library. So ways that you can manage your article data is by grouping it. You can create groups. So, writing like if I pulled this from PubMed, which I did not, but if I did, I could write this is my PubMed group. If you have different projects in one library, recommend saving those download files. So when you download from an database, you get these files are either RIS files or NBIB files. We recommend saving those so you have a clean record of everything you've exported from a database. And also, we recommend keeping this in a place that's not going to be confusing and making sure you're naming everything properly. If you save this to a cloud, it will work sometimes. However, EndNote is not good for collaborating between research team members. So if you're going to use this, make sure you designate one person as like your EndNote person, and then having them save it in a place that is discoverable, saving all of the files that you upload from it, so your RIS, your NBIB files, and ensuring that they keep this updated when you have final versions of your research if you need to go back and kind of look at things. So EndNote is not necessarily like a displaying type of tool like DMPTool or OSF. This is just for personal and team use. So I would not go posting your EndNote library in OSF, but knowing that it's here to manage your citations is really important. Okay, I think that is it from the actual presentation. Once again, if you have any questions, you can just email me or you can put it in the chat. But we have a few minutes left, so if anyone would like to ask any questions, please feel free. I think I'm going to stop the recording now, so you will not be live with your question. Thank you for attending. Like I said, any questions, let me know.